6 months after walking out of the courtroom with nothing but her son and her courage, Maya Ellis stood on the porch of her new home, ready to prove that freedom, not survival, would define her future. Welcome to Mr. Robert Stories. If you love gripping tales of love, betrayal, revenge, and shocking twists, you've just found your new home. Here, every story will pull you in, make your heart race, and leave you guessing until the very last word. Now, here's the deal. Watch till the end because the best surprises are always saved for last. And if you enjoy the story, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss another unforgettable story. Every story on Mr. Robert Stories isn't just something you watch, it's something you feel, something that stays with you long after the video ends. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. Trust me, you're going to want to watch every second. This is Mr. Robert Stories, where every story is an experience. Morning light filtered through the half-open blinds of the Ellis family home, painting golden stripes across the polished kitchen floor. Maya Ellis stood at the counter, her fingers resting lightly on the swell of her belly, the baby within moving gently as if to greet the day. She hummed softly, her voice blending with the faint hiss of the coffee machine, the aroma rich and comforting. Today felt like any other, a quiet morning filled with routine and the quiet joy of impending motherhood. She glanced out the window at the driveway. Ethan Crawford's sleek black sedan glided into view, tires crunching softly on the gravel. His hair, golden brown in the morning light, was slightly disheveled, yet his tailored navy suit and crisp white shirt gave him an air of effortless elegance. The same hands that had held Maya with tender devotion now carried secrets she did not yet know. Secrets that could unravel everything she had trusted. "Good morning, love," she called as she arranged plates of blueberry pancakes stacked neatly, butter melting on top, and drizzled with golden maple syrup. A small vase of white daisies stood at the center of the table, their delicate petals catching the light. Her voice was warm, steady, inviting the man she had married to share in this ritual of love. Ethan's smile was perfectly practiced. He stepped into the kitchen, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead, glancing down at the breakfast spread. "Morning," he said smoothly, his voice carrying the faint timbre of charm, the kind designed to disarm rather than reveal truth. He leaned down and pressed a quick kiss to Maya's cheek, the action familiar, comforting, but underneath, tension coiled tightly in his chest. His phone buzzed in his pocket, and he resisted the urge to answer, though the pull was nearly magnetic. Maya noticed. She always noticed. Something about the way he shifted, the flicker in his eyes, told her that his mind was elsewhere. She smiled, choosing not to confront him yet. For now, she would watch, catalogue, and wait. They ate together in silence, small conversation bridging the gap between appearances and reality. Maya spoke of nursery colors, soft creams and muted sage greens that would welcome their baby into a peaceful space. Ethan nodded, murmuring polite agreement, yet his attention drifted toward his phone as if its glowing screen held a weight heavier than the life growing inside his wife. After breakfast, Ethan departed with a quick kiss, muttering something about early meetings. Maya watched his car disappear down the driveway, a quiet chill settling in her chest despite the warmth of the morning sun. Alone, she moved through the home they had designed together, a sanctuary of marble countertops, soft neutral tones, and carefully chosen art that told the story of their love. Yet even here, the air seemed to carry whispers of deception. She began her day with routine tasks, organizing the nursery where pastel curtains fluttered lightly against the windowpane. Each item she placed, from tiny shoes to neatly folded onyxes, reminded her of the life they had planned, the dreams they had shared. Her heart swelled with love for the child she carried, but a quiet unease began to gnaw at her. Small details she had once ignored now demanded attention. Later that morning, while sorting through the shared closet, Maya discovered the first tangible evidence of betrayal. A small velvet box slipped behind Ethan's shoes, its contents glinting in the sunlight, an exquisite diamond bracelet, delicate and foreign to her tastes. Inside was a receipt with a date that matched their wedding anniversary, a night that Ethan had promised to spend entirely with her. But the pearls she had received told a different story. Someone else had been the intended recipient of the diamond sparkle. Her heart hammered violently against her ribs, the sensation nearly suffocating. The life she had believed in, the perfect mornings, the shared smiles, the whispered promises of forever, now felt like an illusion, a fragile construction of lies and carefully curated appearances. She sank into the leather chair beside the closet, cradling her belly and letting the child's subtle kicks remind her that she carried not just her own hopes, but those of a new life she had vowed to protect. Questions swirled in her mind. How long had this been happening? How many lies had Ethan woven into the fabric of their daily lives? Every smile, every touch, every whispered endearment now seemed like part of a meticulously constructed facade. She could almost see the threads unraveling, each one leading to a truth she was both terrified and compelled to discover. Her instinct screamed that she needed more evidence before confronting him. Acting too soon could backfire, leaving her vulnerable and unprepared. She remembered the words of a woman she had met at her prenatal appointment a week ago, a stranger, elegant yet wary, who had handed her a business card with quiet understanding. "Sometimes we need proof for ourselves more than anyone else," she had said. "Knowledge gives you the power to choose your response rather than simply react." Maya had tucked the card into her pocket, almost forgetting it, but now its message resonated deeply. She needed proof, undeniable proof, before she could take action. She would be strategic, meticulous, and unyielding in her pursuit of truth. Evening came, draping their home in shadows. Ethan returned, his presence as calm and composed as ever, yet Maya noticed a subtle change in his manner, the nervous flicker of his gaze, the way he lingered longer at his phone before pocketing it, the slightly stiff way he kissed her cheek. He was trying to maintain the illusion, but the cracks in his carefully constructed mask were beginning to show. Maya busied herself with dinner preparations, each movement deliberate, each glance a silent assessment of the man she had loved. She noted the scent clinging to him, familiar yet tinged with something foreign, a faint perfume she didn't recognize. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it fueled the quiet fire growing in her chest. After dinner, Ethan retired to his study, citing work he needed to complete. Maya lingered in the living room, tracing her fingers along the back of the sofa where he had leaned earlier in the day. Memories of laughter, whispered conversations, and shared dreams surged like a tide, only to crash against the sharp rocks of betrayal she now suspected. Later, when the house fell silent, Maya retrieved the bracelet and receipt from its hiding place, photographing each piece meticulously. She created a file, organized and precise, each entry cataloging the evidence of deception she had discovered so far. She did not yet know the full extent, but she could feel it building, like a storm approaching, inevitable and unstoppable. As midnight approached, Maya finally rested, but her mind refused to quiet. She lay in bed, hand on her belly, feeling the subtle yet insistent kicks of her unborn child. These tiny movements reminded her that she was no longer just protecting herself. She was safeguarding a new life, a future untainted by lies. Tomorrow would bring observation, subtle questioning, and careful collection of more evidence. Maya knew she was on the cusp of a journey that would demand courage, intelligence, and resilience she hadn't yet fully discovered. Yet beneath the fear and heartbreak, a spark of determination burned brightly. She would not be broken. She would uncover the truth. And when the moment came, she would confront it with unwavering strength. The perfect illusion had begun to crumble, but in its place, a new version of Maya was rising, sharp, vigilant, and unstoppable. The storm was coming, and she would face it fully prepared, carrying within her the promise of justice, love, and the unyielding power of truth. The next morning began with a deceptive calm. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen's marble countertops, glinting off polished silverware, filling the house with warmth that felt almost cruel in its brightness. Maya Ellis stood at the window, cradling a mug of herbal tea. Steam rose in soft spirals while her other hand rested on her belly, feeling the small but deliberate movements of the child within. Despite the peaceful scene, her mind churned with restless energy. Ethan Crawford was already in his office when she woke, at least, that's what he had said in the brief note left on the counter. She stared at his neat handwriting, a practiced scrawl of affection and professionalism, wondering how much of it was genuine. The diamond bracelet she had found the night before lay hidden in her dresser drawer, its existence like a whisper only she could hear. Maya moved through the kitchen preparing breakfast for one. The silence pressed in on her, every tick of the clock amplifying her thoughts. For years she had trusted Ethan implicitly, now she scrutinized every action, every word. The illusion of their marriage had cracked, and through those cracks she glimpsed a reality she wasn't sure she wanted to see fully. By mid-morning, Maya's best friend Naomi arrived unannounced, carrying a bag of fresh pastries and a nervous smile. Naomi had been in Maya's life since college, loyal, protective, the sister she'd chosen for herself. But lately even Naomi's eyes carried a flicker of unease whenever Ethan's name came up. "You look pale," Naomi said gently, setting the pastries on the counter. "How are you feeling today?" Maya hesitated. Normally she would share everything without hesitation, but now caution guided her. "I'm fine. Just tired. The baby's been extra active," she said, rubbing her belly for effect. They sat together at the kitchen table, picking at croissants and sipping tea. Naomi tried to steer the conversation toward baby names, nursery colors, and celebrity gossip, but Maya could feel her friend's nervousness. There was something Naomi wasn't saying, Maya was certain of it. Finally, Maya leaned forward, her voice low but steady. "Naomi, if you knew something about Ethan, something important, would you tell me?" Naomi's fingers froze around her mug. A flicker of conflict crossed her face, but she quickly smoothed it over. "Of course I would," she said softly, eyes darting to the window as though something outside could save her from the question. Maya read the truth in her friend's hesitation. Naomi knew, or at least suspected, something. But pressing harder now might scare her off. Maya forced a smile, changing the subject, but inside her determination sharpened. She would find out on her own. Later, once Naomi had left, Maya retreated to the nursery. The pale walls and neatly arranged furniture felt like a sanctuary of innocence amid the encroaching shadows of betrayal. She sat in the rocking chair, hand on her belly, listening to the rhythmic tick of the wall clock. The baby kicked gently, as if offering solidarity. Her phone buzzed with a calendar alert, Ethan's supposed client lunch downtown. She stared at it for a long time, her mind weighing options. This was her chance to verify whether his meeting was real or another fabrication. Without allowing herself to overthink, Maya grabbed her coat and car keys. Traffic into the city was thick, but she drove with calm precision, eyes flicking between the road and the clock on her dashboard. She parked a block away from the restaurant listed on Ethan's schedule. From across the street, behind tinted sunglasses, she waited. 10 minutes passed. 20. Her heart thumped hard, each beat echoing the question pulsing through her mind, would he show? When Ethan finally appeared, her breath caught. He wasn't alone. A tall, striking woman with platinum blonde hair walked beside him, laughing at something he said. They moved close together, their body language intimate in a way that needed no explanation. Ethan held the door open for her, his hand brushing the small of her back as they entered the restaurant, an unconscious gesture of familiarity. Maya's stomach dropped. The world around her blurred into muted shapes and muffled sounds. She snapped a photo with her phone, her hands trembling. Proof. The kind of proof no excuses could erase. She stayed parked for nearly an hour, watching the restaurant door, capturing every moment they emerged again. The woman leaned in to whisper something to Ethan, her hand grazing his arm, before she slipped into a taxi. Ethan watched her go before checking his phone and striding off in the opposite direction. Maya waited until he disappeared down the street before exhaling. Her whole body trembled, but she felt strangely clear-headed. The world she had built with Ethan was crumbling, yet she felt an awakening, an understanding that she could no longer live in the dark. That evening, Ethan returned home at his usual time, smiling as if nothing had changed. He kissed her cheek, complimented the dinner she'd made, asked about her day. Maya responded calmly, masking the firestorm inside her. She watched his face carefully, noting every flicker, every shift in his tone. As he sat at the table scrolling on his phone, she reached across and touched his hand, placing it on her belly. The baby kicked at that exact moment, a sharp, insistent movement that made Ethan glance up, startled. "She's strong today," Maya said softly. "Yeah," he replied, his voice tight. "Strong." For a fleeting instant, guilt crossed his face, real, raw, unguarded. Maya caught it, stored it away like another piece of evidence. That night, She waited until Ethan had fallen asleep before slipping into the home office. His laptop sat open, screensaver glowing softly. She resisted the urge to snoop directly, knowing she'd need passwords she didn't have. Instead, she checked the drawers, flipping through receipts, contracts, and notes. She found an envelope labeled confidential, tucked under a stack of property contracts. Inside was a key card to a downtown hotel. The same hotel listed on one of the charges she had already documented. Her heart hammered as she photographed the card and replaced it exactly as she had found it. The pieces of the puzzle were aligning, and soon there would be no denying the picture they formed. Back in her bedroom, she lay awake beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling. Sleep eluded her as the baby moved within, the gentle rolling and kicking a reminder of the life depending on her strength. Maya's transformation was nearly complete. She was no longer the woman who believed without question. She was becoming someone who would protect herself and her child at all costs. The following afternoon, she met Naomi for lunch at a quiet cafe. Naomi arrived pale and tense, glancing around as though afraid of being overheard. When Maya gently asked again if she knew anything about Ethan, Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "I can't," she whispered, clutching her coffee cup. "It's not my place." Maya reached across the table, gripping her friend's trembling hand. "Naomi, I need to know. I'm not imagining this. If there's something you can tell me, even a hint." Naomi squeezed her hand back, tears spilling now. "Just, be careful," she said, voice breaking. "He's not the man you think he is." The words struck like a hammer, but also like a key turning in a lock. Naomi had confirmed it without saying the details. Maya left the cafe with her resolve hardened into steel. That night, she dialed the number on the business card the woman at the prenatal clinic had given her. A calm, professional voice answered, identifying himself as a private investigator. Maya arranged a discreet consultation for the following morning. Her voice didn't shake. She was done being passive. When she hung up, she felt a strange calm settle over her. The storm was no longer looming on the horizon. It was here, and she was ready to face it. Ethan noticed her quietness at dinner. "You're distracted," he said, searching her face. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice serene but distant. "Just tired." Inside, however, she felt alive, charged with purpose. As she cleared the dishes, she looked at Ethan across the kitchen, and for the first time, she didn't see her husband. She saw an opponent. She touched her belly again, feeling the baby move, and whispered silently, "I will protect us." Rain drifted down the next morning in fine, silvery strands, blurring the city outside Maya Ellis's car window. She sat parked outside a nondescript office building on the edge of downtown, her hands clasped over her belly, the private investigator's card clutched between her fingers. The stormy sky reflected her own state of mind, heavy, electric, about to break. Inside, the investigator's office smelled faintly of old paper and rain-soaked carpet. The man who introduced himself as Daniel Price was tall, lean, and quiet, his eyes scanning her face without judgment. He had the look of someone who had seen too many lies unravel and too many people discover them. Maya slid the small folder of evidence she'd collected across his desk, photographs from the restaurant, copies of receipts, notes about Ethan's movements. Daniel's eyebrows rose slightly as he leafed through the items, but he said nothing until he'd finished. "You've already done a lot of groundwork," he said finally, his voice low and even. "This is enough for me to start. I'll follow him, confirm patterns, and document everything." But, he paused, looking at her with measured seriousness. "Are you ready for what we'll find?" Maya inhaled deeply, fingers curling protectively over her belly. "I'm more afraid of not knowing," she said. "My child deserves the truth. I deserve the truth." Daniel nodded, sliding the folder into his briefcase. "Then we'll start today." As she left the building, Maya felt both lighter and heavier at once. Lighter because she had taken action, heavier because she knew the truth might crush the last pieces of her heart. The rain had stopped, but the city still smelled of damp asphalt and secrets. That evening, Ethan returned home carrying flowers, white lilies, her favorite. He set them on the kitchen counter with a practiced smile. "For you," he said softly. "You've been working so hard on the nursery." Maya looked at the bouquet, then at him. Her smile was gentle but distant. She could almost admire the precision of his performance. "Thank you," she said, arranging the flowers in a vase while her mind ran on a parallel track. Who had prompted this gesture, guilt, or the other woman's suggestion? Over dinner, Ethan spoke about a last-minute client trip to another city that weekend. His words were smooth, but Maya heard the faint tremor beneath them. He would be leaving her alone, perfect timing for Daniel to follow. After he went upstairs, she lingered at the table, her phone buzzing with a coded message from Daniel. "Received your update. Will observe departure this weekend." Maya texted back, "Understood." Her fingers trembled only slightly. Saturday morning dawned pale and cool. Ethan wheeled his small suitcase to the door, kissing Maya's cheek in a display of domestic normalcy. "Promise me you'll rest while I'm gone," he said, his thumb brushing her jawline. "I will," she replied, voice calm. She stood at the window as he drove away, his taillights vanishing down the street. Within minutes, Daniel texted, "Visual contact established." Following. Maya spent the day moving slowly through the house, cleaning, sorting, trying to steady her mind. Every room was layered with memories, and yet each memory now had a shadow, moments when Ethan had been absent, excuses she'd accepted without question, smiles that had been covering lies. By mid-afternoon, Daniel called. He didn't go to the airport, he said. He checked into the Ashbury Hotel downtown. Room registered under a corporate alias. A woman joined him an hour later. Maya closed her eyes, the words hitting like cold water. She'd prepared herself for confirmation, but hearing it out loud made it undeniable. Daniel's voice remained calm. "I've got photos, timestamps, video. When you're ready, I'll deliver everything." She whispered, "Keep going. I need it all." That night, alone in the master bedroom, Maya sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Ethan's pillow. The house felt cavernous, every creak magnified. She ran a hand over her belly, feeling the baby shift beneath her skin, a steady reassurance against the chaos. She opened her laptop and began making a private folder labeled Future. Into it she uploaded every image, receipt, and note she had collected so far. The folder was like an anchor, proof that she was not imagining things, that the person she'd loved had chosen to betray her. She drafted an email to a divorce attorney but didn't send it. Not yet. She needed to think, to plan. She was no longer operating on pure emotion, she was preparing for survival. Sunday afternoon, Daniel delivered the full report. They met in a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town, away from places Ethan might know. Daniel slid an envelope across the table. Inside, photographs spilled like a deck of poisoned cards. Ethan's hand on the blonde woman's back, Ethan and the woman checking into the hotel, Ethan in the hotel lounge laughing with her over wine. Receipts for jewelry, dinners, even a flight booked to another state for the following month. Maya studied each photo with steady eyes. The man in them was Ethan, her husband, but also someone she no longer recognized. "There's more," Daniel said quietly. "Her name is Claire Whitman, marketing director at one of his partner firms. They've been seeing each other for at least 6 months, maybe longer. She's been pressuring him to leave you. I intercepted a few texts, she's not subtle." Maya placed her hand over the images, as if to contain them. The room tilted slightly, but she steadied herself with a breath. "Thank you," she said. "I needed this." Daniel hesitated. "What will you do now?" She didn't answer immediately. "I'm going to make sure my child's future is secure," she said at last. "And then I'll decide." That evening, Ethan returned from his trip, suitcase in hand, smile in place. "Flight was delayed," he said breezily. "But I'm home." Maya embraced him lightly, inhaling the scent of hotel soap and foreign perfume beneath his cologne. Her eyes were calm, but her mind was a storm. Over dinner, he spoke about work, about a possible promotion, about things that no longer mattered to her. She nodded and smiled in all the right places, but inside she was measuring the distance between who he claimed to be and who he really was. When he reached across to touch her hand, she let him, feeling the cool weight of his wedding ring against her fingers. It was like touching a stranger wearing her husband's skin. That night, as Ethan slept, She walked through the house in the dark, stopping in the nursery. Moonlight poured over the pale green walls, casting long shadows across the crib. She sat in the rocking chair, arms wrapped around herself, and let the truth settle fully for the first time. She had loved Ethan since college. She had built a life, a home, a future with him. And he had traded it for novelty, for secrecy, for lies. But she would not let his choices define her or her child. In the days that followed, Maya moved like someone rehearsing a role. She played the loving wife while contacting lawyers, financial advisors, and quietly shifting small sums into a private account. She began documenting every interaction with Ethan, noting times and conversations. She scanned contracts, insurance policies, and the deed to their house. She also started therapy, finding a counselor who specialized in betrayal trauma. In the quiet of that office, she could finally cry, rage, and plan without restraint. Each session left her stronger, clearer, more certain of what she needed to do. Ethan noticed her serenity but mistook it for forgiveness. He brought home gifts, planned small outings, tried to reassert control. He did not realize she was building an escape plan brick by brick. One evening, Naomi came over with dinner. They sat in the living room while Ethan worked upstairs. Maya finally told her everything: the photos, the hotel, the private investigator. Naomi wept with relief and guilt, confessing that she'd suspected for months but hadn't known how to tell her. "It's okay," Maya said softly, squeezing her friend's hand. "I'm not angry with you. I needed to see it myself." Naomi looked at her with awe. "You're stronger than anyone I know." Maya smiled faintly. "I don't feel strong. But I know I have to be." Later that night, Maya lay awake in the dark, one hand on her belly, the other curled into a fist. Ethan murmured in his sleep beside her, unaware of the fortress rising silently around him. She whispered to the child inside her, "We're almost free." The clock on the nightstand ticked softly, each second a drumbeat leading toward a confrontation Ethan would never see coming. Maya's transformation was complete now. She was no longer the trusting wife hoping for reassurance. She was a strategist, a survivor, a mother preparing to secure a future built on truth rather than illusion. And as she drifted into a shallow, restless sleep, she felt something like resolve harden into steel. The unraveling of Ethan's lies was almost finished. Soon, the rebuilding of her own life would begin. Maya Ellis woke before dawn, her eyes snapping open in the gray half-light. For weeks she had rehearsed this moment in her head, the confrontation, the words she would speak, the look she expected to see on Ethan's face when the facade shattered. She had files ready, money quietly moved to a separate account, and a lawyer lined up. But nothing could prepare her for the surge of adrenaline now coursing through her veins. She rolled onto her side, studying Ethan's sleeping form. His hair was mussed, his jaw slack, the mask of charm absent in unconsciousness. She wondered how many times she had lain beside him without realizing who he really was. The thought no longer made her cry. It made her cold, efficient. Today was the day. She rose from bed and padded to the bathroom. In the mirror, her reflection startled her, eyes sharp, jaw tight, shoulders squared. She no longer looked like the woman who had once believed Ethan's lies. She looked like someone capable of detonating the truth. Downstairs, she brewed coffee and opened her laptop. The folder she'd labeled Future glowed on the screen. She scrolled through photographs of Ethan with Claire Whitman, hotel receipts, intercepted texts Daniel Price had secured. Evidence as solid as steel. She placed the printed copies in a neat stack on the kitchen table, weighting them with a ceramic paperweight shaped like a dove. The baby shifted inside her, as though sensing her mother's resolve. Maya rested a hand on her belly and whispered, "Just a little longer. Then we're safe." At 7:45 a.m., Ethan came down the stairs, already dressed for work, tie perfectly knotted. He carried his phone in one hand, scrolling through emails. "You're up early," he remarked, kissing her cheek. "Couldn't sleep?" "Something like that," Maya replied. Her voice was calm, almost warm. She watched him pour coffee, watched him butter toast. It was astonishing how normal he could look while living a double life. When he finally noticed the stack of papers on the table, his brow furrowed. "What's this?" "Our life," Maya said softly. Or at least, the version of it I didn't know about. He blinked, glanced at the top photo, Ethan with Claire, hand on her back outside the Ashbury Hotel, and went still. Maya, his voice caught. I can explain. No, she said, her tone cutting through his protest like a blade. For once, you're going to listen. She slid into a chair and gestured to the seat opposite her. Sit. Ethan obeyed, moving stiffly, as if his body no longer belonged to him. Maya opened the file and began laying out each piece of evidence one by one like a prosecutor before a jury. Photographs, receipts, hotel key card, transcripts of text messages. Each item landed on the table with a quiet, devastating thud. With each revelation, Ethan's face shifted, denial, then panic, then the beginnings of anger. You hired someone to spy on me, he demanded finally, his voice rising. I hired someone to protect myself, she replied evenly. And our child. This is ridiculous, he snapped. Claire is just a business contact. These photos are taken out of context. Maya cut him off by sliding across a text message printout where Claire had written, You promised you'd tell her. I'm tired of hiding. Ethan's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Don't lie to me, she said, her voice low but dangerous. Not now. Not when I already know everything. He stared at her, breathing hard. What do you want, Maya? Money? An apology? This doesn't have to destroy us. Her laugh was soft, incredulous. Destroy us? You already did that. I'm just sweeping up the debris. For a moment silence filled the kitchen, thick and charged. The sound of a delivery truck outside filtered faintly through the window. Finally Ethan leaned back, his face settling into something colder, harder. Do you think you can just take my child and walk away? He said softly. Do you think it's that simple? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Maya felt the shift like a physical force. The mask had fallen, revealing the man beneath. I'm not taking your child, she said. I'm protecting mine. He slammed a fist on the table, making the papers jump. You don't get to decide that. The baby kicked sharply inside her, as if sensing the danger. Maya's hand went to her belly, her eyes locking on Ethan's. Lower your voice, she said quietly but with steel. You're scaring our child. For a heartbeat, something like shame flickered across his face. Then he rose from the table, pacing. You're overreacting, he muttered. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end things with Claire. Just stop this melodrama. Maya stood slowly. It's not melodrama when it's real. And it's not about counseling. It's about choices you already made. She gathered the papers into the folder and held it to her chest like a shield. I've spoken to an attorney. I know my rights. You can't intimidate me anymore. Ethan stopped pacing. His eyes narrowed. An attorney? You've been planning this? Yes, she said simply. For weeks. While you were sneaking around, I was preparing. The clock on the wall ticked, each second stretching like wire. Ethan's shoulders slumped slightly, the anger leaking out, replaced by something closer to desperation. Maya, he said, voice breaking. Please. I messed up. I love you. I love this baby. Don't do this. Maya hesitated. The words were familiar, once beloved, but now they sounded like lines from a script she'd already seen through. She saw not a repentant husband but a man scrambling to maintain control. I don't believe you, she said softly. Not anymore. He reached for her, but she stepped back, her eyes flashing. Don't touch me, she said. Not until we figure out the legal arrangements. For now, you'll stay in the guest room. His hands dropped to his sides, fists clenching. That night, the house felt different. Ethan moved around like a stranger, his footsteps heavier, his voice muted. Maya locked the master bedroom door and sat cross-legged on the bed, breathing deeply to calm her racing heart. She texted Daniel Price, he knows. Confrontation done. Please advise on next steps. Daniel replied quickly, stay safe. Document everything. Consider a restraining order if he escalates. Maya set the phone down and closed her eyes. The baby shifted, and she whispered a promise, "We're almost there. Just hold on." 2 days passed in a tense limbo. Ethan vacillated between contrition and fury. He sent flowers, then slammed doors. He hovered in doorways but avoided eye contact. Maya went about her routines with quiet precision, never letting him see her flinch. On the third evening, as twilight bled into the house, she found a note slid under her door, "Meet me in the kitchen at midnight. We need to talk." Something about the note chilled her. The handwriting was tight, aggressive. She texted Naomi, "If you don't hear from me by 1 a.m., call the police." At 11:55 p.m., she crept downstairs, phone in hand, Daniel on speed dial. The kitchen was dim, only the refrigerator light spilling across the floor. Ethan stood by the table, a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses in front of him. "Sit," he said. "I'll stand," she replied.